like him. So. One, I don't like my voice when I hear it. Two, it shows me how unorganized I am sometimes. All right, I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to bring up Visual Studio. I think you can just type in, Visual Studio, and we want none of those. Oh, there it is, the top one, Visual Studio 2015. And if it's the first time you've opened it, which for most of you it will be, it may take a moment to load.
Actually, I did have a question on that. When it said setting, it said general, and then there was one that appeared to be C#.
Yes, and you could do the C# or general, whichever you want. The only difference between them, so everything is available, no matter what setting you choose. Mm-hmm. But it's what it puts on top, basically.
Okay.
So if you do C#, all the C# stuff will be on top, which makes it a little bit easier. Because I think if you do general, a lot of times it'll go on top. Okay. And you have to be careful, because the code I show you will not. What else do I want to say about it? The settings, as I said, they're just everything's still available. It's just what. So the first thing we're going to do is just a new project. Pretty much what we'll always do. Question? If some of you want to, next quarter I teach C# as a web language for the .NET. And then we always go to new website. But here it's new project. We're going to do mostly console. Maybe towards the end we'll do a WPF or a Windows form application, so you can see some forms. But again, the nice thing about console is that there's really not much code there that you don't write, whereas the others generate a lot of code that you don't write, and that can be a bit confusing when you're starting out. You can also use this, again, we're not going to do it, to write apps for Windows 8 and Windows phones and tablet and things like that. At the beginning, when it asks you to register, you don't have to register unless you are writing an app. So if you're writing a phone app or something, then you have to register with Microsoft to do it. It doesn't cost you money, but you do have to register if you're going to do it. It won't open up the Windows app stuff if you don't register. Okay, so the other thing is this is a good time to give it a name. And this one I'm just going to say, this isn't going to be a coherent assignment. It's just going to show you the stuff that you need to do for your exercises. So I'm going to call it assignment 1, examples. The other thing I want to say is that this is the time to change the path if you want to. You can't change it once you're up and running. I mean, you can, when you're done, you can copy the folder and you can open it from a different place next time. But there's no way to change the path once you're up and running with this. It's going to go here. This is a perfectly good place. It's in your folder under My Documents, right? My Documents under your username, and it'll be under Visual Studio 2015 projects. But if you want it somewhere else, like if you're making a 110 folder or something, you could do that. You can move it. I would hesitate to move it to the thumb drive. I think it would be better to do it on the computer and then copy it to the thumb drive, and then copy it from the thumb drive to the computer, just because I've had a lot of programs fail because it won't trust the thumb drive. Does that make sense? It's possible you could make it a trusted drive if you go into Windows, but I'm going to do OK. And anytime you have a question, stop me. Now I may make my font a little bigger, I mean smaller. Somebody has reset the total view here, which is good though. but it makes my font really big. If you want to go into the font and do different things, like you go to Tools, Options, and this is where you can change pretty much all the settings in Visual Studio. I'm going to go to Fonts and Colors, and I'm just going to move it down to more like 12. We'll see if that's readable from the back. If it's not, I'll up it again. Yeah. There's a new project and it hasn't been updated.
Yeah, I have to save the file.
I wonder if we open. Okay.
Or switch for installing it. Because it won't, I think it's last time that it wouldn't let me put that.
Try installing it. You're probably gonna use I don't understand why that. Do you have it on your phone?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it for
Because this may take a while. I'll tell you that that's not working.
We will.
Okay. There is, if you want.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
can I know how to get the output?
Which? Oh, this one.
Down
What do you mean?
output.
Oh, show output.
Yeah.
It's just actually you could probably get it from View,
View.
and then
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Actually, that's a good point, though. Let me go through this real quickly. So one of the things is there's environment, there's a color theme. This is blue. If you prefer black, you can do dark. Dark would give you a black background with color screens. I don't do that up here because even though I kind of prefer it as a theme, it doesn't. So if you prefer a dark one, you can do that. I'm going to go down again to Fonts and Colors. I changed the font. I'm using Verdana for one reason only, and it's not necessarily a reason for you to use it, is that it has really distinct curly braces. There's no confusion between curly braces and parentheses. So, for display, that's a good thing. The other place that you might want to go, I don't know if you want to change font, but if you go down to Text Editor and open that little thing there and just do all languages, one of the things you can add there is line numbers. You can also do word wrap if you want. I'm not going to do word wrap because you can break a line pretty much wherever you want. But so under Text Editor, all languages, you can have line numbers if you want. Line numbers are useful in that, particularly if you're asking, what's going on, you can say it's at line such and such. The error messages sometimes give you a line number, although the line number the error message gives you may not correspond exactly to the line numbers in the thing. Anything you want to change, you can change in here, although I would suggest you be a little bit conservative on what you change until you know what you're doing. I've seen some that become these psychedelic messes. Okay, is that still readable from the back? Okay. And you remember what we talked about, what all these things are. So these are just libraries that it's including. The only one of them really need is System. The others are just sort of a cheap way to advertise new features. This is the namespace. The namespace will usually reflect your assignment name, although you can change them. Like I would do this. I would put a capital E there. And it won't affect anything. You can even change the name program here. It's just a default name. You could give it a different name. Okay. So questions about the general environment that we did yesterday, sort of. I mean, not yesterday, the day before yesterday.
Can I get the line numbers?
So the line numbers, again, are under Tools,
Tools.
Options, very last thing there. And then go down to Text, text Editor, all languages, and then line numbers. Open it up. Click so you go down to Text Editor.
Yes, and
Not there, down.
Yeah.
This is up. You keep going past it. Text Editor.
over there.
And then open it up by hitting that thing and in all languages. Yeah, and then just you can choose the line numbers. Okay. The main things that we need for the assignment are basically just how to put stuff in, get input and output, right? So I'm going to show you some examples of that. We did a little bit last time. Actually, 3 works as a comment, but actually 3 is a XML comment. We'll talk about that. So I'm just going to do getting some input. How do we get input? Do you guys remember anything from what the demo? How would I get some input from the user? What? Well, first you want to give them a prompt. You want to tell them what to input, right? Mm-hmm. So what do we want to get from them? So the way you output a prompt here is you do the console object. This is a little different in Windows Forms where you would assign it to a text box or a label. But here you do console, write. Now you can do write or write line. Anybody have a guess what the difference is?
Does right line make a new line?
Right line, when you're done, it makes a new line. Right doesn't. So if you want the answer to appear next to the question, you would use right. If you want it on the next line, you'd use right line. Right line creates a line break. I'm going to use right line. When you do a right line, it's a method, so it always has parentheses. And then inside of that, you can put the literal string of what you want to say. So what are we going to get from the user? Let's just say enter your. All right. Any list characters like a sentence. You could put numbers in there too, but they wouldn't be treated as numbers. They'd be treated as strings. We'll talk about numbers later. And you open and close the quote. And it'll just display that on the screen. That's what the right line does. It displays it on the screen. Questions on that? Yeah. Semicolon. Commands always end with a semicolon. So, and if you don't, it'll cause problems. Now, a couple of other things I want to show you real quick that aren't super relevant, but like I said, you could break a line anywhere. Right after the period, if I want, I could do right line like that. The only place I can't actually break this is in the middle of the quotes. I can't break the line in the middle of the quote. I could break it here, and it would be happy. It ignores white space for the most part. Again, you can't break a string literal up without cat. These can be broken up however you want. The point is to do it for readability. You know what makes it readable? I'm going back to where it was, but yeah, it's you can break and move things around quite a bit. You can also create spaces. So it's oftentimes it's good to, if you do a little block, then to have a space or two and do another little block, when, you know, to keep it readable and to make clear what's going on. You know, the more readable you can make it, the better. All right, so in order to store their favorite color, we need something to store it in. Does that make sense? It's like creating a box to store it in. And what we need to do is we need to give it a type. And the only type we've dealt with so far is string, which is characters. And a color, actually a color can be something other than a character, but in our case, we're just going to treat it as a series of characters. We can name it, you know, like we could name it color. I'm going to talk about the naming conventions for variables. The usual name, the naming conventions started with a lowercase letter, and then if you have multiple words like this, to capitalize the next word, jam it all together. You aren't allowed spaces. So you jam it all together, and you just, namespaces are capitalized like this. These are capitalized, these are capitalized, but variables are under lowercase and then capital letters for any additional words. So if I wanted another word there, I could do color choice, for instance. You know, just to, so you can see how the, it's called camel case. And again, this is just a convention. There are other conventions in other languages. Oh, this is a new assignment. Yeah.
Okay. That explains it. Thank you.
Yeah, you can't have two mains.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
There can only be one main in a program. All right, there can't be multiple mains. There's only one starting point. So if you do these in the same screen, it'll get a problem. That's a real easy thing to do. Though,
Okay.
so.
Yep.
Notice the green underscore here. So part of what that says is it just says that if I put the cursor over it, it says that the variable is declared but never used. Green is for warnings. Red is for errors, and green is for warnings. Okay, does that make sense? You can, a program will run with several warnings, but it won't run with any red marks. There is a red mark here because this isn't a legal into the line, right? The way you declare a variable always is you give it a type, and we'll talk about other types soon. Probably not today, but we will talk about, and then you give it a name. I could do that just like that, and it would be happy there. Still green underline because I haven't used it. And then I could say color choice equals console, and then what we'll do is read line. Notice the IntelliSense, it helps you. This is an extra step, but you might like it. So this declares the variable, and this assigns the variable a value, and the value is going to be whatever they type into the console. So a lot of this stuff has been kind of built for you. The console object was pre-built for you, and it has a method to output a line, and it has a method to take in a line that was written. There's also a read, but a read will only take in one character. You know, so if you're looking for just a single character answer, read works. But read line is what you want. And read line will actually take in spaces and stuff. It'll read the whole line until the line break. Does that make sense? Now you could do this like that, which is what I usually do. You could assign, create the variable and assign it a value in the same line. Or, if you prefer, some people like to do all their variables at the top and then assign them as they go through. Whatever makes it most sense to you. Do you guys have a preference? Actually, one of the things that can drive you nuts at the beginning is that there are options of how you do things. So it might be better if I only show you one way. But I usually do this just because it's the way I think. I'm creating the variable to store what's in this line. You have to store values if you're going to use them later in the program. You have to store them inside of something. It doesn't matter too much, but color choice is just a name that points to an area of memory where this is going to be stored. String tells it how much to set aside, sort of, to store something. So every character is at least 8 bits, right? And so it knows that it needs at least 8 bits for every character. If in a Unicode system, which this is, that could vary a lot. So it's a vague sense of what needs to be stored. Right? It gives you probably a beginning address of where it's going to be stored. But we don't have to worry about the memory addresses. We just need to remember what the name is stored in under. Some of the older languages, anybody do C++? Some of you said you programmed. You can point to the actual memory address and pull from it. That's a little dangerous, though, because you can do bad things. So once you've got this input, and we've got it, then you want to display the output again. So again, it's just a console. Write line. And we would want to do something like your favorite color is, and I'm going to show you a couple ways to do this. This is the way you probably would prefer in this. Oh, I need to do one other thing. I need to do Does this make sense? Do you guys remember it from last time? It's okay if you don't. As I said, if we, it's. So we're writing a line again. We're writing it to the console. This is just a placeholder. This is what's going to be put in the placeholder. Is what's stored in color choice, right? I'm going to add one more line. We'll run it, and then I'll show you some. We'll do a few variations. This has most of what you need to do the assignment, so just right here. Let's do. So I'm going to do console, and I'm going to do read key. Remember why I do this? It just pauses it long enough so you can see the result. Otherwise, it finishes and goes away, and it does it so fast that you don't get to see it. A couple of other things that I don't know that I've said. C# is case sensitive, right? So read key with a lowercase k won't work. If I do that, I'll just change it to a lowercase k. Notice it gets a red line underneath it. And if I do it, it says it does not contain a definition for read key. Right? It doesn't know what that is. If I change it to a capital letter, it's perfectly happy. And in fact, when I put my cursor over it, it tells me something about it. So if I run this, and again, the easiest way to run it is to find off screen there. Get it down on the screen? I don't know. There's a little triangle that says start. I wonder. There we go. Or you can go to debug, start debugging. So I'll start it. And this isn't going to be very exciting, but color, which I'm not sure what it is. And then your favorite color is blue. Isn't that exciting? When I press the enter key, it does rekey, it goes away. So input. Let me comment this a little further. So this actually, let's do this. Prompt getting input. Oh. Output results. Pause. Okay. So I'm going to do one more little thing here just to show you a couple little things, and then I think you'll have enough to do your first assignments.
It's a change are not allowed
What?
while code is running.
So if you're still running, is your box still up?
Uh,
Click the little rectangle. You might have to do OK first. Yeah, do OK. A couple of things I want to tell you about just Windows in general. So what you just had, if I try to edit while this is running, it'll give me some problems. Notice this little square red box. That means it's running, and you can stop it by just clicking that. The other thing is you have windows here. Like I said, we'll be mostly interested in the Solution Explorer. Down here, this output and debug, they give you some information about the program, particularly if it fails. These things can go away, and there's like a toolbox over here, which we won't need for a while. But like if I click that, it goes away. If I go to View, Output, I can get it back. Almost every window that you can have, and there are a lot of them, many that we won't look at. If you accidentally get rid of it, so if I do like Solution Explorer, I got rid of it. There's a Team Explorer, which I don't need. If I go back to View, I can get the Solution Explorer back. So View is the place if you're missing a window. Now, the other thing that can drive you really nuts is that everything is movable. You can drag them and move them all over the place. This is wonderful if you're like Microsoft, you're working at Microsoft, and you have 3 monitors this size. So you can put your toolbars over here, and you can put, so you can move things around and have lots of things. So everything's movable. It's not always as easy to get them back in place. There's this little cross here. If you get the cursor right in the right place. No, that's not where I wanted it. As I said, sometimes it's hard to get it back where you wanted it. But you can move things around. Everything can be docked and undocked, which is nice, but can be really confusing especially when you don't do it on purpose. Yeah.
Use color choice instead of just an arbitrary name.
It is an arbitrary name. So you could name, that's actually a good point too. So the variable names can be pretty much anything except you couldn't name it console, for instance. You can't name it keywords or name it after and you couldn't name it string. So you can't name it keywords. You can't have spaces. It can't start with a number. You can have numbers in it, but it can't start with a number. It can start with an underscore, although that's usually reserved for certain system variables. If you don't like, although this is the naming convention for Microsoft, if you don't like it, it is possible to put underscores between words. But the underscore is really the only legal character other than letters and numbers. You can't put a % sign in it. You can't put a hash pound sign in it, because those are all used by the system for different things. Does that make sense? let's change this just a hair. I'm going to say enter your favorite color. And what else do we want? Something else. Favorite number? Do I have a favorite number?
Animal, maybe?
Maybe. Sure, animal. All right. I'm going to actually undock this. That's the other thing. You can undock all these so that they go down to the side there. Gives you a little bit more real estate to work with. All right. So what I'm going to do, let's actually don't do it in one. Let's do it this way. Don't you hate, this is what I hate when I view my videos, and I'm sure you hate it too. I'm going to do console right line, enter your, enter your favorite animal. It's easier this way. To do it as 2 prompts, and then do so it's just another read line. Get that. And in here, this is what I wanted to show you. Maybe I should have done. I'm going to break this just so it stays on screen. Oh, my brain. And I can break this here, color choice. You don't have to break that line. I'm breaking it just to make sure that it stays on screen because my thing is so big. So I have a right line, and then I say your favorite color is 0, and it goes to the first one here. And your favorite animal is 1, and it'll take the second one. There's no magic. It doesn't know what the animal is. It doesn't know what the color it is. It's just the first goes to first, second goes to second. And the way computers number things, we'll see this a lot as we go on, is starting with 0. So this is the first placeholder, this is the second placeholder, even though it has a 1. Does that make sense? So like if you were doing the ad libs, wherever you had a blank, you could just put one of these with a number. It does have to be, these have to be listed after the quotes in exactly the order that you want them to go into the thing. Yeah.
If you want to write just a variable without a string, how would you do that?
Well, actually, there are no variables without a type. It's not like JavaScript or something. So C# is a strongly typed language, so everything has a type. If it's a numeric, you could say double, or you could say integer, or int. But it would you always have a type, so it's always a type, and then a name. Some languages like Python, PHP, and JavaScript are loosely typed, and you don't have to give it a type when you do it. Have you done any of those? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's one thing. This is just for your information, and you can ignore it if it confuses you. Here's a separate way to do this. And this your favorite color is, and what I'm going to do is do a plus and color choice, and then plus, and I can break this because pluses. Anybody seen this kind of thing before? This is what's called concatenation. So let me move my quote. I'm going to move that down because that belongs with this. And then I'm going to say with placeholders. I will put this on the blog so you'll have the actual code. And it's also will be on the video. So this one uses placeholders. This uses concatenation, which means it's just sort of tying things together. So your favorite color is plus color choice. So it's going to take the color choice and put it here. You have to be careful of spaces with this or it'll just ram things together. It's a lot more literal. Here it's a lot easier to format. Okay, your favorite animal is, and then notice I have a space and then plus animal. These will have exactly the same look on the screen. There will be zero difference between them. There are two ways of doing the same thing. I find this easier, but it's good to show this because in certain, these only work in console. If you're in a Windows form or something like that, you have to do it this way. So these were written as part of the console object, these placeholders. Questions? Does it make sense? Okay, so I'm going to run this real quick just to show you. So I'm going to say my favorite color is, oh, how about teal? It's almost blue. And then my favorite animal, I don't know. I have 3 cats. Sometimes I like them and sometimes I want to kill them. The only difference is I didn't get enough space there, right? So I can adjust that. This is the one that has the pluses. And I didn't put a comma there. But other than that, they come out the same. I could fix it so that they're exactly the same. So this is where there's not a space. And then I would want a comma. Probably here. It's actually a comma splice if you're taking English. It's two independent clauses with a comma.
Not to mention that your favorite animal is cat, without a.
Oh, without, what did I do?
It says your favorite animal is
Oh,
cat.
is cat, yeah. You could put a. I actually have a master's in literature. But that's it. All right. Are there questions on this? Because your assignment is really just to prompt people to enter, get their input, and then output it. That's really what the assignments are. It's just get you in the environment. The things that you will find frustrating initially if you've never done this before are getting the parentheses and the semicolons in the right places. You know, but it'll, I'm getting all the case right. You know, because the case, but use one of the things when you do things, you might have noticed there's a lot of IntelliSense. They call that, you know, like when I do start typing, this doesn't belong here. So, but when I start typing CH, it gives me lots of things it could do. It could be a car type. It could be a car numerator, which will make sense in this context because we don't have any checkboxes. But it could be color choice, right? It gives you your own variables as well as things. And if you do, let's just do color choice again here. If I do color choice, it actually sees that, knows that that's the most likely choice. And if I double click it, it's there. I don't have to type it, you know. And whenever you do like a console dot, it gives you all of the options that could go after that dot, all the legal options after that dot. And again, you can choose the one that you want. And if you double click it, it'll go in there. You can also, although it's a little dangerous, especially when you're starting, like console write line we used several times, we just changed the code. If you don't want to write it again, you just can copy and paste it and then change the parts that need to be changed. As you get better, you'll find ways to not have to type so much, because when you type, you can make mistakes. I got rid of the plus here. Are there any questions on that?
Mine has, and then I in here, I don't know what it's for.
Right line. Well, so you have it now. There. Right, but this can't be by itself. It has to have like a right line, console right line. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I think I'm going to let you work on the first assignment while I help you if you have problems. And I will post this, and I'll post the video here in a moment too. And as I said, this, if you've programmed before, this is mind-numbingly simple. But if you've never programmed before, it could be, there could be some challenges just getting into the environment, doing things like that. So, and we'll do more interesting things later. Yeah, anytime you need to go out and get your coffee or anything, particularly during open lab, feel free.
So I'm not quite sure why that is.
So do you have a variable named animal? So you need to have the variable named animal. So I have string animal.
Oh, that's what I'm missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what it's saying is it doesn't recognize animal.
Exactly. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
That looks okay. Oh, never mind. It actually has to do with curly braces. This needs a curly brace. And I think what we did was just type curly braces. If you get a curly brace out of place, everything will be in error. It's a warning. Curly braces will be the of your life. Yellow. That's fast. Put a space at the bottom. I didn't see how that. Now, this is a 0.
No, it isn't no. It's supposed to be a zero.
It's supposed to be a 0. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. There we go.
Thank you. Okay, this one won't open as
One's good.
as it can.
Right, so let's look at.
Jigger it around online.
Let's try something. So you had it originally with the other one.
Yeah. So this is in,
Was it a brand new project?
yes.
And you just. Did you type it back in or you just?
And every time I type this, it doesn't have that put in.
Let's try something. Let's do a new one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it may have been that you were in the wrong project.
Okay.
Yeah, that's easy to do also.
So I actually had more what is the name of somewhere?
Oh, you know, I was going to show you.
Oh, okay, well, and then before, so in this case, I would go to File Save Program or?
If it's run, it's saved.
Oh, if it's one that's safe, and I mean, I was just, then, if you could show how to change the name of the name of the file.
Okay, so it's a little complicated.
Oh, it was,
Well, I mean, you can save it.
that's, I just put my last name, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
For me to find.
You can actually change it here,
Oh, really?
and it'll be fine. It won't change the file name. This is the file name. This is the name system.
Okay.
So you could change it here, and you could change it there. I
Okay.
mean, changing this won't change that.
Okay.
And changing this won't change that.
Okay, I'll just be more careful.
Yeah, the best place is to name it is when you first start. But
Yeah.
it's not, it is possible to rename those after. Some things would be renamed them cause problems.
Yeah, so, okay, so this was just kind of practice, but like, so for instance, like, you know, when I do assignment one dot sessions, I know it'll keep my head straight, but.
That should be okay. I'm not sure if the dot will cause issues or not.
Oh, okay.
You might do an underscore sessions.
Oh, underscore, okay, great.
Yeah.
You saw me with like a space.
So when you go in, you have to just make sure that there is a space there between the. It's just in the. It has to be a literal space. I can show you. Not when you're running. When you're in the code. Couple of things about turning this in, because that was actually a good question that I was going to talk about. There's a couple of things you can do. One is you can just, because all I really need is the code here, you can just copy and paste it into a text box in Canvas. The other thing you can do is you could copy and paste this into a Word document or WordPad or Notepad and then upload the file. All right, and I only need the code. One of the things I would like you to probably do, even though it'll be attached to your name, is up here at the top of the program. It would be really nice to have comments with your name and date. I mean, it's a good habit to build a header comment anyway, and so would be a good thing. But basically, you can cut and paste this into the text box. You can cut and paste this into into a Word document and upload it, or WordPad, or even Notepad. Or you can go to where the actual file is, which is in Documents, Visual Studio 2015 Projects, and there's assignment examples. And if you open up the folder, you could upload the CS file. It works, but it's a little bit harder for me because basically it doesn't open automatically in Canvas. It's just a text file. If I right-click and say Open with Notepad, it's there. It's just a text file, but the CS confuses Canvas a little. It's fine. I can deal with it. I can. It actually will open Visual Studio for me to look at it. Generally, I don't run these in Visual Studio unless I'm confused. Because I can usually tell by reading them if they're going to work or not. If they work. If I look at it and I don't know if it's going to work or not, because sometimes people are clever, do things that I hadn't expected, then I will copy and paste it into a new project and run that. Does that help for loading? Yeah. Okay. Let me stop the video here, because otherwise it's going to have a lot of dead space at the end. And then I'll come around.
Are we going to have time on Tuesday and work on these also? Last question.
Yeah, although there's another hour left here.
Oh, no, like,
You can always ask questions, yes.